like it seemed crazy before, but now it's crazy plus 200,000 dead. Like it's that much more crazy. And that's not to say that they won't do it. They have chosen Amy Coney Barrett. I doubt that she has changed her mind much from her earlier, statements about this. But if she gets on there, and if she does cast a vote, potentially the deciding vote that does kill the ACA and throws millions of Americans off their healthcare during a pandemic that, for all we know, could still be raging in a year. What do you think that American society, how will they respond to that? What long-term impact will that choice and the success of that choice have on American politics?
Well, there are two levels of this, and I mean, sadly we could go through any number of issues, right? They're going to expand the Heller Act, so there are going to be many more guns. We could talk about that at a future thing. They're going to screw up the public education system. Any number of these things were, even a year ago, thought to be very far radical right positions, even in the mainstream GOP. And so really, I think as society starts to pick up and recognize, and really it's a particular challenge, I have to say, to blue states, right? Because a lot of red states didn't expand Medicaid. They didn't create competitive insurance marketplaces. And so really, I think a lot of this devastation, a lot of blue states also have state level gun laws that are pretty effective. And those are probably going to get overturned if she gets on the court. And so really, this is a way of trashing blue states as a way of trashing the country. And ultimately, that just doesn't work as a country. And so I think part of the issue will be, are these issues too far to the right of just the electorate, where people start to wake up and say, wait a minute? And some people seem to think that. I don't know. I've been studying red states for a long time, and I've seen people put up with this kind of stuff for a long time. So unfortunately, I think what we're seeing, there's something that they used to call the Southern strategy. That's how like the Nixon, Reagan people won over the South with racism. And I think we're just seeing the Southern strategy become a national strategy. And so I think it really is a challenge to liberals, Democrats, progressives. How are they going to fight back in strategic ways? Because this is not a short fight. This is a long fight. And in answer to what you said before, I think we will be in the pandemic in a year still. So I think it's going to be potentially super duper bad.
Well, in terms of, and that's certainly an understatement, but I agree. So in terms of how to fight back in that way, I really do think that you're saying that they're losing white voters. I feel like the way that they're being lost, these voters are being courted by the right, really plays into why those voters don't seem to care about the pandemic, don't seem to mind the idea that people will be thrown off their healthcare during a pandemic. But you're the expert. So in terms of messaging, in terms of campaigning going forward, what should the Democrats do? I'm assuming the answer is not, try to appeal to racists in the way that the GOP does, try to beat them at their own game. So then what is on the table? How do you win back some of those voters?
Well, I'll give you two answers to that. One is I'm part of a pretty cool project now that's under the hashtag With Biden We Can, and it's run by, I'm involved, Mark Ruffalo is help running it, Mondale Robinson from the Black Male Voter Project. And it's kind of trying to imagine what the country should look like. In other words, what would real leadership look like at this moment? And so I would invite people to check out this hashtag With Biden We Can, just to see a place where people are actually having this conversation in ways that imagine what would responsible leadership look like. The other part I think is pretty important. In my many years of interviewing red state voters, it's pretty amazing. Like if you just listen to NPR, which I do all the time, you would think that all Trump supporters are, crazed, pants on fire, running around with the AR-15. But in fact, they've been trained for about 3 decades that the most important thing for their movement and their goals is the courts. Like nothing matters more than the courts. And I would meet people who were literally dying and wouldn't sign up with the ACA. And when I asked them, why is it? They said, well, I don't want this thing to get entrenched in the law of the land because I want there to be a Supreme Court judge who will overturn it or who will overturn abortion, nationalize gun rights. From top to bottom, they've been told the way that we are going to get power and take over this country is through the courts, and now it's happening, right? So they're euphoric, a lot of people, at the possibility of this. And the Democrats haven't done that. They really haven't trained their base about what's the importance of the appellate courts, what's the importance of the Supreme Court in relation to this. And so I think really this has to be a top-down movement to really educate people. Here's what the courts do. Here are the kind of coalitions you need. And here's how you make that happen. Because we, for better or worse, I feel like I've never heard anything like that on our side, as opposed to when I talk to even really just, foot soldiers who are on the right, who will basically be really smart about this stuff and say, look, I care about abortion and here's what I'm willing to do to get this happen. So there's a strategy step that I think we used to have it, but I think we're gonna have to get that back.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That the asymmetry between how much the Supreme Court has been prioritized, both in terms of governance, but also in terms of campaigning, is huge. And you pointed out, it's not just a difference in priority; it's that they're actually succeeding. They've been doing fantastically well, and that means that now the Democrats are going to need to gird themselves for decades of trying to right that asymmetry. So I certainly agree with you there. So glad we could have you on to talk about these topics, because your writing and your research just plays into it so much. Jonathan Metzl, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, anytime.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.